Hey everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about all of this week's Disney Plus news, including the cancellation of Turner and Hooch, Hawkeye views being down. We're also going to be talking a little bit more about some recent surveys. Plus, we've got lots of reviews. We've got lots of things to talk about. We're going to be talking about Hawkeye. We're talking about Welcome to Earth. We've also got Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Christmas again, Last Duel, loads of bits and pieces to talk about. So before we do any of that, quick bit of housekeeping. Now, obviously we are at the end of the year, and that means that it's generally the time when we start doing like our best of the year stuff. I have launched our sort of proper awards, so what you can do is if you head over to whatsondisneyplus.com, you'll find a link on the side. You click it up, bring up a survey, and it'll ask you what's your favorite movie, what's your favorite series, what's your favorite short, what's your favorite documentary. There's also some star stuff in there as well. Yeah, and just complete the form and submit it, and then you'll put your votes in. You can vote as many times as you like. And that'll be running right through till Christmas Day. And I'm going to be taking the results in on the 26th, ready for the end of the year. So you've got a few weeks, you can vote as much as you like. But yeah, so that's as we're going into the end of the year, as we can tell if you are watching with the whole Christmas background. Yeah, so that's that. Also a bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do go check us out on the website. You can also favorite us and you can bookmark us, join our mailing list, etc. And you can find us on podcasts and video platforms like YouTube and Spotify, so make sure you subscribe there. Big thank you and for all of the support of our patrons and YouTube channel members, which help keep all the lights on, keep everything paid, etc. That includes Sarah. Thank you very much for being a platinum member. We've also got Andrew, Elliot, Jacob, Caleb, Red Marsman, Aero, Andrew, Cody, Darren, and Lauren, while over on the YouTubes. Big hello and thank you to Bobber Trolling. We've got Dave, Diona, CBBC Reborn, Adam, Mahmoud. We've also got Ben, Raphael, J Blue, My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. So again, a big thank you for all of your support. We'll be back tomorrow with another live Q&A on Sunday nights. Didn't do it last week, did a pre-recorded one because if you'd seen us recording the podcast, you realize why, because the amount of times I had to flip. So luckily, I'm feeling a lot better, so it should be a little bit less this week. So let's jump into it, James. So we'll go through some of the bits of news. The kind of the big one really was that Turner and Hooch is not going to be returning for a second season. This was confirmed by two of the actors in the series. So up first we had Brendan J. McLaren. He said when someone asked him, they said they were waiting for season 2 of Turner and Hooch to be announced, and he said, "Don't hold your breath, you'll die," which I thought was a pretty safe idea of saying, that's not coming back. And then also Reginald VelJohnson, who was in the original movie as well. He also spoke to comicbook.com, and he said, well, as far as I know, they're trying to sell it to another network or something like that. That's what I heard. But as of now, it's not going to be picked up. I don't think. It was fun to do, and working with the actors was great fun, and I hope whatever they decide to do with it, I'm okay. It's okay. I was enjoying doing this sequel, and hopefully we will have some time to do it again. But if not, I was glad for the experience. Which I think definitely kind of says, that this one's done. What did you think of this one?
Yeah, not unexpected news. I don't think Turner and Hooch performed as well as they wanted it to. And obviously, both of us were looking forward to it, and we ended up being pretty negative on it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one because I know, like with us, I mean, it was quite fun. There was a few people had commented on, going, "Yeah, we know you two didn't like it because you said it all the time," and it's like, there's a lot of people that actually have been really vocal about this fact that it's being cancelled. A lot of people saying they really enjoyed it. They liked watching it with their kids. They liked watching it with their grandparents. It was a kind of a nice family-friendly show that they could all watch together. But it was that kind of thing of like they liked it, and there wasn't violence, there wasn't any sex or anything like that. But at the same time, there was this general theme of going, oh, it was very safe. It was very, and it's like there is a market for that, but at the same time, safe and sort of, I would say this was essentially a vanilla ice cream show. Nice, fine, but doesn't do anything. And therefore, it is that thing of it didn't move the needle. It obviously didn't have the views to warrant them spending any more money on it. Like we said, there were some parts of it that I enjoyed the series in some ways, and then sometimes I didn't. I kind of felt like at the beginning when it was doing the parody stuff, I wasn't so keen. And then the first few episodes when we got into like the serious side of things started to pick up. And I remember saying to you, I've started watching it again and I'm enjoying it. And then it just fizzled out because it was just taking so long to get they didn't get anywhere. So I completely understand why this one's gone. I mean, in actual fact, this is like one of the first like Disney shows that have not been sort of picked up for a second season. We've already seen Mysterious Benedict Society, Big Shot, and the Mighty Ducks. I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised if that Mighty Ducks second season happens. You know, we don't know, but with everything going on with Emilio Estevez. But for me, Turner and Hooch, it's like, yeah, you had 12 episodes, you tried. It didn't really kind of, I don't know. It just, for me, it's like, I can see why they haven't picked up. The idea of selling it to another network is like, I can't see them selling it to another streaming service because they're making it themselves and they would have to give the rights over for the previous seasons. They might try and put it onto, I don't know, I mean, the Disney, but that ultimately Disney is still paying to make it. But I think the actors, by the looks of it, have all like checked out and they're gone.
See, the funny thing here is that I think it being a safe show, I don't disagree with that at all. It probably would have done better in traditional broadcast than it would have done on streaming because the expectations are a little bit different. You put it in a safe time split, like maybe right after school or in that range, you probably will get people coming home from school, turning it on. It's the show they watch before the parents make them do their homework or something like that. It would have done just fine. Obviously, again, not accounting for the state of the world with COVID and all that. But streaming probably didn't do it any favors because it's not the show that you sit down and, oh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and the new shows are arriving, let's watch Turner and Hooch, as opposed to, say, Hawkeye or Loki or something like that. It would have been interesting to see if they had put it on Disney Channel instead of Disney Plus from the beginning, if it might have done better. Also, it needed more of an arc to the story than it had if it's going to be on the streaming service. And again, there is nothing wrong with safe. This will actually come up in a couple of the reviews later in the episode. But it's not just that it was safe. It didn't really have a message at all. Even safe shows typically have some sort of theme to them. And the theme of this one was just funny dog chewing up all the things. Nobody trusts the dog. And then, oh yeah, the dog was right at the end all along. You know. But
even the dog bits were getting less and less.
Right.
You know, the dog was becoming less and less part of the show, which was like he's actually the main reason we're here. I think, like, you know, there was a few suggestions of, like, you know, like the love triangle and everything, and the people going, oh well, they done it in other shows like Friends and stuff where they stretched it out for seasons, and that's what they were doing here. It's like, yeah, but there's only so many times they can look at each other. There was just nothing actually kind of, you know, there was no kind of will there, you know, I don't know. I just for me, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the show. By the end of season, I think I gave it a bit of a better view at the beginning because I enjoyed some of it. But by the end of it, it's like, yeah, no, this is definitely in the territory of it gone. I know some people have been saying, like, oh, Disney haven't officially announced. Disney don't actually ever announce anything's cancelled. It just kind of fizzles. You know, they never will put out a press release saying we've cancelled something. So it's, you know, it doesn't tend to happen like that, though. And ultimately, as well, if you've got that money to spend, you're better off spending it on something that's going to do results. They tried it. I still think they got lost mid-season. Like I said, you know, those first 3 episodes when, I mean, that second episode where they did like Die Hard. I mean, it just was completely out of context of the rest of the season.
Not just out of context, but it's totally tonally different. Yeah. I mean, Die Hard is an R action movie, and you're trying to do it on this, and your target audience is probably in like the 10 to 12-year-old age. As much as we may talk about Die Hard as like one of the best Christmas movies and all, I'm probably not showing it to a 10-year-old. They're not going to get what we're watching here.
It's funny as well. Die Hard just got added to Disney Plus yesterday in the UK. Disney even sent like a press release with a load of stuff and facts about the movie. They're really proud of this one. This is like the ultimate Christmas movie. They're proud of that one being on there. But I think again honestly, I'm gonna watch it this week.
I'll watch it, just not on Disney Plus because it's not on Disney Plus over here.
No, it is. I think just like with the whole thing of Turner and Hooch, I understand why people are upset. You know, if you enjoyed the series, you'd like it to come back. But for me, I'm like, no, you tried it. You get 12 episodes. You tried. Let's just go and try something else. I mean, I never really liked the idea even when they announced that they were going to reboot it, because it was a bit like, well, it was a nice movie, and it was one of my favorites as a kid, but where can you go with it? And I think that was trying to recapture it and try to make it a sequely but they didn't. Without Tom Hanks, it was just never going to go there.
That was the big one. If you're going to continue this franchise, you need the reason that people remember it in the first place, which is Tom Hanks. Obviously the dog, but this was 20 years ago. It's going to be a different dog no matter what. Actually, it's, 40 years ago at this point? It's a long time. In any event, without Tom Hanks, you lose the main draw of it being Turner Hooch. Now, if they had done this as a buddy cop show with a person and a dog and had no connection to Turner and Hooch at all and not tried to hammer that in there, it might have actually done better because they might have been hamstrung by having to keep referencing the original movie.
Because I really enjoy the relationship between I think it was Xander, when they brought in his mentor to kind of help him, and I thought that worked fine. But as a whole, it was a nice solid show. But unfortunately, it's time for Disney. They're moving on from that one there.
Yeah. I think it is worth pointing out before we move on to the next one. Even though neither of us ended up being super fond of the show or happy with it, or other things like Timmy Failure or Home Sweet Home Alone or things like that, we're never rooting for a show to go away. If they had come in and said we're going to do season 2 of Turner and Hooch, we'd be like, season 1 wasn't that great, but awesome. We are so happy that you guys are getting a second one. We did that with Mighty Ducks, and Mighty Ducks season 1 was kind of junk, but cool. They're bringing a second one. We're happy for you guys. Yeah,
and also as well, I'd also would be hoping that they would have fixed it. That would have been ultimately what I'd have liked with Turner Hooch season 2 was, okay, guys, can you fix some of the issues? It might become a better show, but it's hard getting people back in. Hard to get people back in another time. Right, let's shift now. Let's now talk about another brand new show. So now let's talk about Hawkeye. So apparently, according to some stats that came out from, we're seeing here, from Samba TV, they are stating that 1.5 million US households watched the Hawkeye premiere over the first 5 days. Adding on to that, it was about just under 200,000 for the UK, 63,000 for Germany, and 10,000 households for Australia. I also like to say as well, when they say households and subscriber packages, it's well, if you got 1 of you, 3 of you, 5 of you on your account, how many times is, I know for Hawkeye, at least 3 people watched that series episode. So therefore, you could easily quadruple, I would say, maybe the numbers of the amount of people watching the actual. So it might be much higher that I've actually watched it. But that's how many people watched it. A little bit down. Everyone was a little bit down on the second episode. They lost about 0.2 of a million in the US. A little bit less, only about 3,000 in everywhere else. But a massive drop off from Loki, because Loki debuted to 2.5 million US households back in June. And so that's a big drop off from that one. And there's so many reasons why I could think of it. Thanksgiving has to be a big one. I know, there's the idea of a lot of you are at home and you can watch it, and you're much more likely to watch it because you're home. But if you're traveling, maybe you've not spent, especially with last year when people didn't get to see their families, they might have been much more inclined not to do it this year. That's one issue. Second issue as well. 2 episodes, so did people, and also it's Hawkeye. Hawkeye is just, they joke about it even in the musical in the first episode about him being the one that no one really kind of remembers. There's a standing joke right through the finger. The idea he's invisible, no one knows what he looks like, people don't recognize him.
Yeah, there's a lot of different reasons for this, and I think the last one is actually honestly the most likely one. There is that people just aren't as excited for Hawkeye as they are for Loki or WandaVision or things like that. The other factor I might toss in there, I don't have any real data to back it up one way or another, is people might be waiting for Boba Fett to come out. People who are waiting on their subscription, and then they will watch Hawkeye at that point. Boba Fett's a much bigger draw. People will be wanting to sit down, and then when they've got that episode, they'll go back and watch other things. But it's definitely a drop off. There's a lot of factors in it. Honestly, obviously it's disappointing, but not really surprising. And I say that so far, having loved the series, it's actually my favorite of the Marvel series so far. But it's
we're gonna do a breakdown of the episode a little bit later in the podcast because we don't want to go into spoilers now. But it's important to note as well, it was down on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it was also down on WandaVision. And I've got to put this down to, we have had a buffet of Marvel this year. We were on now to our 4th live action series. We've also had What If. We also had some other series as well. We've had MODOK. We've had Hitmonkey. Here in the UK, we had Hellstrom.
Well, some of us have.
Yeah, I didn't get hit. We didn't get Hitmonkey. But then we've also had Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals. And it's like, getting to the last year, we got nothing. And then this year we got all of this. And I do have to think like the importance of the show. I think like Loki was also this kind of thing of this show is going to be so important. This show is so big and it's going to change the Marvel universe. And I also, I got to be honest, Tom Hiddleston is and Loki's a much more interesting character and actor than Jeremy Renner. I really don't, I've seen him in all these movies, but he's never really been, I've seen him in I think some of the Mission Impossible movies, but I really don't remember much of, he's not as charismatic as like Tom Hiddleston, or I would even say like, when we had like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's excitement about that show. I think more of the excitement's been about bringing in Haley Steinfeld, and I've been really enjoying her as Kate Bishop. But yeah, I'm enjoying the show. I was a little bit like, But the interesting thing is how many more people are watching it globally? Because we don't have the numbers for that. Disney might be there going, yeah, you guys were saying less people watched it, but actually statistically more people watched it because more people got Disney Plus.
I would have to think if that were true, or if they could provide those numbers, they would have.
Yeah.
They might be sitting on it till the end of the series where they can just go, these are the global numbers, releases, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that they're not out there going, yeah, okay, it's a lower U.S. launch, but look at all the people watching it in England. Look at all the people watching it in the Asian regions.
Yeah.
Like, they're not doing that, and that kind of, because Disney is never one to kind of hide their successes,
Yeah. They only ever. This is the big thing. There's a lot of discussion about like viewership numbers and stats not being released, and how they count it and what they count and how they can. It is very tricky. But I think this series is going to continue to build up with momentum as people because I think like the trailer and stuff, it wasn't as hotly anticipated. You could tell that going into it. With people talking about it, people are excited about it, but we're in an eternal Spider-Man sandwich, and it's like the excitement right now over Marvel is over Spider-Man because there's just a lot more buzz about that movie. Because it's just shrouded in like mystery, and I feel like Hawkeye's starting to get into that territory with Mysterio. Was it Mr. Foe? I'm sure he's going to pop up at some point, but Mephisto, yeah. He's going to turn up and everything. But yeah, so generally as a whole, Hawkeye viewership is down a little bit, but in the long run, things might all work out a bit.
So I wanted to make one last point. Right at the beginning of this, you mentioned like how do you measure viewership, hours versus households versus etc. Actually going to advertise one of our competitors here. What's on Netflix actually did a write-up on this earlier this week. So what's on Netflix.com. Go check it. It's a very interesting analytical.
He's actually the entertainment strategy guy. He's a really good person to follow for going through all the numbers and stuff on everything. Hulu, Disney. He really gets into the numbers. I must admit, I do read his stuff as well. Very, very in depth.
He does a lot of technical analysis. Definitely worth reading, even if you don't have Netflix subscription.
Right, let's shift now. Let's shift to some more stats. We're doing some math stuff today. So a new survey was revealed by Variety VIP, and this was done by Media Whip, and they asked. This was through their an app that they US TV time. I think it was around about 700-800 people that were voting. Yeah, so 700 people. So it's not a bad size, but I'd like a little bit of a bigger audience. We could probably do that. Much higher than that if I just put that in our Facebook group. So according to their survey, 53% of survey respondents felt that Disney Plus has enough content to keep them entertained daily. Now 53%, all right. However, 20% of them said that they didn't feel like there was anything for them to watch on Disney Plus daily, which I will admit that when it was Disney Plus like minus Star back earlier this year, I would tend to only drop in on the Fridays when we used to have new content. That was the standard thing that we would do. You drop fire up Disney Plus on Friday, binge for all the new stuff, and then I probably would not jump back into it once or twice, maybe in the things. But now I go in there daily and watch stuff. But what about you?
Yeah, I was just going to add on, like, we binge through stuff on Friday and we'd be done by Friday night. It's not like there was a huge amount of stuff to do.
Life.
Yeah, so bringing the American perspective on this, because obviously this is going to dial right down to that ongoing Hulu Star Plus thing. Even now, even with a lot more content coming on this week, we had like 3 things drop that I watched plus stuff last week. I'm only in Disney Plus normally 2 days a week, and even then for only a few hours at a time at most. Obviously, if you're in a household with kids, with young kids, I could see you just kind of throwing it on, and Frozen 2 is on loop for 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
But I think most people in our situation are just like, we turn it on for Hawkeye, we turn it on for The Mandalorian, and then it sits until the next one is out.
Yeah. Definitely agree on that one. According to the data, 63% of surveys respondents agreed that the notion that they'd watch much more Disney Plus if they offered more content targeted at adults. Now, I'm going to come into this as the Brit with the adult content in our Disney Plus and say, I'm watching a lot more on there. I'm in there daily. I'm in there. Last night I watched The Last Duel. The night before, during the days I've been like watching How I Met Your Mother. I think I've also been watching a little bit of New Girl, plus I've been watching some other bits that have been dropping onto Disney Plus throughout the week. My wife is regularly going in there, binge. She's got a couple of shows on the go that she's watching for all times. My parents are in there as well, like using it. So I definitely will say that, you will use it more. It's just there. We watched Dope Sick on Wednesday night as well together. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that we've been watching in there. Disney has a wide range of content aimed at audiences on Hulu, but according to the survey, over 50% of them said they'd watch Disney Plus more if it included free access to Hulu originals like The Handmaid's Tale and Solar Opposites. Now, my wife has been watching Handmaid's Tale because it's on Amazon over here, and I love Solar Opposites, so I can definitely agree with that. So I kind of find it quite interesting. Like over 50% of people were like, if you've got this stuff on there, that means they want to watch it. They do want to have access to it, which is understandable. I think they just generally along the lines of they just want more content on there. But then you're going to look at maybe 49, 48, 47% of people are like, nope, keep it as it is. Because we get that a lot in our Facebook group. When this conversation comes up, there's a lot of adults that they like it as a kids version because they pop their kids in front of it and they don't have to worry about it. And that's become the standard of what they expect with Disney Plus, and they don't want it to change because they like it. And there is this counterbalance of what they've got to do. Obviously internationally they had to deal with this last year, and I think they obviously it worked. But in the US there is a different audience. There are differences in regional stuff, and but there's definitely this growing trend going towards the idea that Disney Plus is going to have to up its game. I literally just wrote an article and popped it up today. Was the top 10 things of improvements I'd like to be made onto Disney Plus. One of them was that. And one of the things I did state there as well was not necessarily that they even have to go up into like Deadpool and the Strain and things like that. Maybe just start using the 14 a little bit more. Start pushing, like there's some documentaries, for example, here on National Geographic, about World War II, about 9/11, about like drugs and science and stuff, which aren't on Disney Plus in the United States because the topic is too mature. It's only rated a 12, but they're not on there. You could push the boundaries with putting on, TV PG-13, like, to PG-12, 12, Modern Family, what the Wonder Years, the Go-Bergs. You could be putting family-friendly shows on there, and that I would think would encourage more adult use. And that's not necessary, because I think the trouble is whenever anyone says like, I want more mature content, a load of people's mind goes straight to rated R, TV's 18, just filth kind of stuff, and they go, I don't want that stuff on there. So my kids like going, well, hold on, it's like Dope Sick is deals with adult themes, but it's not it's like there is that difference of what it is of like, no, a lot of it is actually more. And like with documentary stuff, no 6-7-year-old kid's going to sit there and watch a documentary about World War II in black and white. They're not going to be, but they're being taught about it at school. So, it'd be much more interesting for them to learn it. I don't know. I do keep thinking of, like, you know, they could push the boundary a little bit more. It was actually interesting. Got highlighted by someone. They'd come over from Brazil or something over to the UK, and they couldn't watch the Beatles because what it is over here, the Beatles is rated 16 plus. The Beatles Get Back ones is rated at 16 plus. They came from Latin America, where their account won't go past the 14 plus, so it wouldn't actually show them the Beatles. Because in the US, they've had to, like, basically disable the rating for it because it wouldn't fit within Disney Plus in the United States or Latin America. And it was like something like so simple as one of their biggest titles has pushed the boundaries a little bit. It's pushed it a bit. You know, we're getting, and The Rescue, I think, was pushing the boundaries a little bit because that was a TV-14 documentary. We had Fauci recently as well. But then tomorrow, for example, here in, like, the UK and in Australia, we're getting The First Wave, which is a documentary all about COVID. You know, they are pushing a little bit more, but why is that not in the US? Because, you know, it's deemed too mature.
Yeah, a couple of things there. First, I was definitely the kid who would be watching the World War II in black and white on the History Channel back when History Channel actually did history documentaries. Granted, that was more like early teenage years.
You mean not just doing raids into warehouses for stock?
Yeah, no, pretty much. But the other thing was, I'm reminded of when Star Plus was first kind of being rumored, not even announced, but we were talking about it, and we're like, mature content. We always had to qualify. Like, when we're saying mature content, we're not talking like blood and guts. We're not talking aliens and predator and nudity and all this stuff. No, we're just talking about stuff that adults will enjoy. Stuff like Burn Notice or The Gifted, shows like that, where it's like, it's not for kids. It's not horribly bloody and you know, meant for that kind of thing. It's just, no, we want something that's a little bit more mature than, you know, Mickey's Clubhouse, right?
Yes.
But people do love to skew that argument so much.
Actually. Yeah, I think there's this constant kind of thing of, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a test. So I'm just going to literally I'm making a little bit of a profile set up that is specifically for 14 plus. I'm just going to go in here and just make a little adjustment just to show off, like, what could happen if you had, like, Star, but your rating was a little bit less. If I would drop it down to 14 plus. So this is just a little bit more, so this is what, like, we could get on Disney Plus in the US with just a 14 rated. Now, instantly, Pearl Harbor, McCartney's 321, Summer of Soul, you know, because this is, you know,
Free Guy. Yeah.
You know, Free Guy, you've got The Day After Tomorrow, you've got a little, you know, look at this here, Modern Family, Scrubs, you know, this, The Golden Girls, this would, even like Desperate Housewives, Grey's Anatomy, are technically, even Family Guy here, I mean, because it's rated only 14 plus. So this is that difference of Disney is supposed to be able to go up to 14 plus, but this is what they could do, but it's not. You know, there's nothing on here which a 14-year-old would be deemed not inappropriate for a 14-year-old to watch, which is still a child. And I think that's ultimately. I mean, I know they got the Die Hard collection here, but you see, it won't let me watch it. You know,
it's interesting that they still put it up even though it's got no content in it for the 14-year-olds.
Yeah, I think it's because it's a collection rather than how it works.
Yeah, I think that might be something that they need to fix, though. If the collection is empty at this rating, it probably shouldn't show up at all.
No, but you know, this would be like what I would say they could push the boundaries for by just going up to 14 and really, but then you might probably be along the lines of, I think, like, once you start seeing this again, you might as well just go the full hog and just pop it in there. But you can push, you got these kind of a big series that are all considered. I mean, I'm surprised that one come in there, but it's actually only a 12. You know, some of these
that's a Showtime show about like old time showgirls, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've not seen it. But again, this was just a literally off the top experiment to show you what could happen if you just went to a 14 plus. which does generally just.
I'm looking at that Family Stone icon alone.
Yeah, it does
kind of set people off.
It does, but it's so good. It's so good because it's not what you think it is. It's what you think it is.
It's definitely not. It's the ring finger, but
it looks like it. definitely caught my eye. I remember seeing that the other day. But yeah, that's just an example of how they could use like the 14 just to up Disney Plus without actually pushing it. But it's going to take a little bit of commitment, I think, from Disney to kind of get to that point. But yeah, so definitely a way forward there. Right. Okay, couple of let's see if we've got any other quick bits of news before we go any further. Apparently the new movie Chan Can Dunk has finished production. That's coming to Disney Plus in 2023. So that's a new movie all about a kid that wants to dunk a football.
Dunk a foot?
No, a football, a basketball. Yeah, whatever.
Just making sure.
Just a ball.
I honestly wouldn't put it past them to do some sort of like parody genre where you're playing football on a basketball court or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's sports. So there we go. Also, we got Only Murders in the Building is now filming in second season. That's now underway. Also, Cara Delevingne has joined the series, which is pretty interesting. Secrets of Sulphur Springs is returning for a second season next year as well. There are going to be batches dropping onto Disney Plus after they've aired on Disney Channel. They're not doing like the weekly thing that they did before. Also been confirmed that Antlers is going to be coming to Disney Plus in in Australia and New Zealand on the 15th of December, as is Ron's Gone Wrong. Quite interesting what's going on out there with Australia with their advertising from 20th Century Studios. They're putting out the trailers, and then it'll be like out December the 15th on digital DVD and Disney Plus. It's all being Disney Plus is starting to be like encapsulated in with home video market of like, because we've seen it with a few titles already, but it's like, the day it goes out on digital is when it goes out on Disney Plus. It's kind of Disney Plus is becoming the home video market, which is where we always thought it would go, but now it seems to be lining up a little bit more in their strategy.
It definitely accelerated their plans on that one. Yeah. Worth pointing out that does not mean premiere access, right? This just means it's going straight onto Disney Plus, right?
Yeah. It doesn't do anything of the kind for that. It's like here, I just put a screenshot here of the advert. See here, December 15th. Buy it now on Blu-ray and digital. Stream it on Disney Plus. They are literally incorporating it into their home video plans, which I think is great. I think that's actually a good way of doing it. Kind of incorporating it all into one night. I mean, when we think back to what Disney Plus was like in 2019, 2020, before all the madness hit, we were talking like 8 to 9 months sometimes between movies being released. That was how I think people have forgotten that. It was only 2 years ago, but I think like Toy Story took like 7-8 months to get onto Disney Plus.
I honestly forgot about Toy Story 4. But yeah, then they just dropped Frozen 2 right at the beginning as kind of a like, here you go. And I keep forgetting the name of it, but the Tom Holland.
Onward.
Onward, yes, that one. Where there's like, well, the box office is dead. Here you go, have Onward.
Yeah, it was really annoying because us in the UK we didn't get it. We had to wait because it was still in it hadn't hit the cinemas, so they wouldn't do it. But yeah, nevertheless, so that's a little bit of a few of the highlights. So let's now jump into some of the reviews. Okay, so let's talk off about Diary of a Wimpy Kid first. It was a brand new movie that dropped yesterday. I had never read Diary of a Wimpy Kid. They were too old. I was too old by the time it came out. I think I was like 18, 19 when it came out. I've never seen the movies. They just look like generic kind of kid flicks that just didn't really appeal. I never watched it. So I watched this one yesterday morning. And it's like, I kind of watched them and like, I see what they're doing here. I was like, I get this. I understand what this is now. It's very much like there was a few little reminders of me at primary school, going up to high school, and the differences between that. And I could relate to the character. I actually thought I think it's Bradley Noon, who's the main voice of Greg, but he's actually also the main voice. He's the main person in the Mighty Ducks. And I was like, I actually thought he was better in this than in the Mighty Ducks. He seemed a little bit more animated. I don't know, just seeing, but I really thought, the animation's a little bit crude. It's a little bit basic, but they've already announced they're doing a second one. Roderick Rules is coming next year. They've got 16 books so far. He's the Jeff guy is turning out books left, right, and center. Like, this is a way of keeping this franchise, like, because the trouble is with the live action ones was by the time they did the first one and the fourth one, the actors had grown up so much that they go back and recast the actors. With animation, you don't really have that problem. They can kind of stay where they are. They don't change. It looked like the book in terms of like the artwork that I've seen off the fronts, and I was like, this seems fine. I thought it's perfectly acceptable. I don't think I'd watch it again, but I know when Roderick Rules comes in, I'm going to watch it. I could see myself like, watching these movies. It was a lot better than I was expecting. I don't think my expectations were so low going into it, but I thought it was fine. What about you?
Yeah, so this movie gave me anxiety. It reminded me a lot of middle school. Honestly, exaggerated still a bit. Like the whole cheese thing was I don't have any comparable experience to that, but a lot of it I was like, yeah, this feels like middle school. So good job on recapturing that middle school feel. I never want to feel that again. I hated it the first time. I did not like it this time either. That's not a point against the movie. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to. My real complaint is that other than Roderick, the buddy character, there is not a single likable character in this show. Even the main character, up until like the last 5 minutes, is just a complete jerk throughout the entire. He's self-centered, but that's authentic to middle schoolers. I will grant them that completely, 100% authentic to middle schoolers. But at the same time, just like, I want to see you have to eat that cheese because you deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good in like how they did it, and it's that kind of thing. Like, that age group, they are a little bit more, they are selfish. They do get and I thought that word, because he wasn't being nasty about it, and he got a bit caught up in himself, and he's trying to fit in, and he feels like his best mate is not helping, and I mean, it kind of felt a little bit like they were a bit disjointed in like this problem to this problem to this problem to this. It could have been a series. It could have been like 3 or 4 separate episodes. I kind of feel like this would have been good to release maybe like 6 weeks ago before Halloween, because there's a massive, great big Halloween subplot in here as well, rather than a Christmas subplot. But yeah, I thought it was perfectly fine. I really have got. It's the kind of thing like, other than. I know there's nothing wrong with it, and it's kind of it is that kind of thing like, yeah, it hit everywhere. And there's some people were complaining about the length because it was quite short, under an hour, and I'm like, actually, that worked great, because it was like it kept the momentum, pacing.
Going,
It finished when I wasn't bored, because when it ended, I'm like, okay, that's cool, that was great, good timing. Yeah, I thought it was solid. I thought it was a nice, solid animated movie. I've got no real issues with this one at all.
Yeah, no, I actually really liked the run length on it, because it really felt like they had a story to tell. They told the story, and they didn't try to pad it out. They didn't try to extend it by half an hour just for the sake of it. They're like, nope, we have the story done in 50 whatever minutes. All right, cool, move on, let's go. Because with this move towards streaming, obviously the box office is still a big deal, but you no longer really need to make the movie with the idea that you've got to keep people in seats for an hour and a half to 2 hours or longer to make it worthwhile. If you're putting it directly on streaming and that's the plan, make it however long the story needs to be. Within reason. Let's not do Get Back again. We don't need 7.5 hours of jam sessions. But if your story is done in 40 minutes, just finish it in 40 minutes.
Yeah. No, I completely, and just like, no, this is a good addition, and I feel like this could be a nice, solid Disney Plus franchise for them to keep going with. Churn out one of these a year, or maybe I don't know, then go to 2 a year, but maybe 1 a year. Great. I think that would be that's us set to the 2040.
We'll be good for a while, and presumably there'll be more books between them. Yeah. Like I said, I do have complaints with it, but I think this is a perfectly solid thing. And I think middle schoolers will be able, or people who maybe just got out of middle school too, will be able to relate to this a lot, because it does feel authentic, even as cartoony as it gets at times. Yeah,
and I feel like it's like I know like Disney, the Disney major movies and the Pixar maybe movies, adults love watching them, and this might not fall into that. It's like, there is a market for this, and it's like, and it's like, no, it's perfectly fine for what it was. Shifting gears, let's now talk about an entirely different movie, which dropped onto Disney Plus here in the UK, and was The Last Duel. This one came out in cinemas about 6 weeks ago, and we literally just hit the 45-day window. It's coming out in Australia and New Zealand on Disney Plus on Wednesday next week. Don't yet know about the Canada release. It's a little bit messy over there. You rented it as well. I watched it last night. Again, 18 plus. So this is where the age bracket comes in. I thought it was okay. There was a lot of good scenes of it, and like the action scenes of like the big major duel at the end. I thought was great. I really enjoyed that. There's some few other things that went on, like battles and stuff between them. But I didn't like the triple story from the 3 different side points of view. It kind of got a little bit like, did we need it? It was a bit stretched out. We talk about like too long. This was a movie that was a little bit too long. They could have that whole telling the story from 3 different sides. Obviously, like I'm trying to think of I couldn't even remember any of the names of the characters. But Jodie Comer's character from her side obviously is a lot more different than from Adam Driver's. It is a very brutal storyline. It was not what I was expecting. I didn't go into this thinking, that it was all going to be about basically a rape trial. It was not what I was expecting at all. It's very dark. It's pretty brutal. It was I'm glad I've seen it. I'm never going to watch this ever again. It was a little bit too long. But it looked, it's got some big. It's got some pretty big actors and stuff. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. I'm glad I've seen it, but I can see why this maybe didn't do so well at the box office. It's a pretty, the fact they don't even really talk about what the actual story, the main story is in the trailer or in the description is because if they said that, you probably just wouldn't watch it. I'm glad it's on there. I'm glad I've watched it. It's a very well made movie, but it's not the most comfortable of viewings.
No, this is not a happy action flick by any stretch of the imagination. I also did not know about certain events because they didn't advertise it for squat. So when Adam Driver is getting into that scene that you referenced, I was like, oh, they're doing this. Okay.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard to watch. In fact, I did turn away at several points. This is not a happy, comfy movie. No. That said, I think they did a very good job with it. You can definitely see Ridley Scott's hand in this. Mm-hmm. I discovered after the fact why Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are in this, because that was something we were talking about before it came out. Like, what are these guys doing this? They wrote the movie, which I found out afterwards. I'm like, okay, they wrote it, so they put themselves into it. I probably would have recast them though, but Damon did fine. Ben Affleck was he seemed a bit out of place. Mm-hmm.
I also, in some way, it would have made it might have been a bit more interesting had like Adam Driver been Ben's character and like they merged the two together, because I don't think you needed the two together. But
I think that from what I read, Adam Driver's character was supposed to be Ben Affleck's character originally, and then he stepped aside because he had shooting conflicts with another movie. Yeah. And I think they might have just created Ben Affleck's character so he would still be in the movie.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible he was originally like this one character, and then it's like just slice this part off, and that's Ben Affleck now, which is actually really weird when you think about it, but not the only time that kind of thing happens.
No, but again,
Sorry. The actual duel, I just wanted to mention this. You referenced it. The duel itself is fantastic. That was a really, really, it's well shot. It's intense. You have no idea where it's going to go. Because normally when you get to the end of the movie, you're like, oh, the hero's going to win. It's going to be a hard fight, but the hero's going to win. And this one, through the entire thing, I'm like, I have no idea who's going to win this thing. Yeah. This is incredible.
And I just thought Matt Damon with the scar and stuff. He just and the mullet and all the way. He just very interesting movie. Glad I've watched it, but I'm never going to watch it again. And it's again, this is the difference of these movies coming out. I think we've got. I'm trying to think what else we've got. Ron's Gone Wrong is 2 weeks' time, I think, is the next big movie release. Did you happen to watch The Rescue this week, or did you not? Because I spoke about it last week.
I did not. I didn't see it on my bar at all. Was it supposed to be on Hulu on this side, or was it?
No, it's on Disney Plus this week. It came onto Disney Plus.
I don't know. It must have glitched. I actually had a couple of glitches this week, so I did not see it in the What's New banner. I also did not see Diary. No, sorry, did see Diary of the Wimpy Kid, but they had the wrong icon for it. They had the live action one. They fixed that. And then the Christmas one that we'll talk about after this did not show up. I had to actually go and search for it, and I would not have if you hadn't mentioned it. When the rescue didn't show up, I was like, oh, that just must be next week. So
the rescue. I mean,
what happened this week? It was weird.
Yeah. Well, we weren't obviously because as we spoke about the rescue last week, but I forgot to say, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, please watch The Rescue, one of the best documentaries of the year, all about saving a football team of kids that got trapped in a cave, and they had to get a load of British divers to fly out to Thailand to rescue them. Incredible documentary, just really good, just great stuff. So again, that's a really good, nice documentary to watch. It ends on a good note. It was a really good documentary. Like I said,
yeah. To be honest, I do really want to see that documentary. But if the kids had not made it, you know, in real life, I'd be like, nope, no, I do not need to see how these guys failed at this. So, I did want to see it. Disney, I don't know what was up with your new bar, but it was weird.
No, it's odd. Let's shift gears and we're going to talk now about Christmas again. A brand new Disney Channel original movie, which they did this one great, released on Disney Plus and on the Disney Channel on the same day. Hallelujah. They finally did what we needed them to do, which I think is perfect because I think this is exactly the kind of thing that they need to do more of. And also, this has got a very short window. You know, they've only got like 3-4 weeks to get the views in. I watched this one earlier in the week. I did have a little bit earlier access, so I was able to watch it. I thought this was a really kind of like really nice Walmart kind of Christmas movie. You know, the girl gets kind of stuck in a loop doing the Groundhog Day where she keeps doing Christmas over and over again because she's getting used to the idea that her dad's got a new partner and the Christmas is not the way it used to be, and she's harping back to how it used to be. I mean, we're talking like 2 years, you know, because I think she's only like 12 or something like that. And it's all about her coming to learn to accept that things have changed, to accept the new family, you know, that they do actually care. You know, they're like a little, you know, that little thing of like going, oh, actually, my future stepmom actually does care about me, and my little new stepbrother actually he's playing with me because he actually likes, you know, kind of things like that. And they kind of over time, and then they're helping out the neighbors and rescuing the kittens and helping, you know, and it kind of, I mean, it's quite a short movie. I think it's what, it's like an hour and a half. If you hadn't said this was a Disney Channel original movie, you could have said this was a Hallmark, or I think they could have even just released this straight onto Disney Plus as an original, and I think it would have been perfectly fine. It's a nice, easygoing, family-friendly movie. I think the whole family can sit there and watch it. You know, I think adults can watch it and kind of be like, cool. There's nothing too mad with it. There's some fun moments in it, and I was like, I kind of watched it and went, yeah, that was nice. And again, I was like, other than like, you know, there wasn't a lot of special effects. Fine, they covered that fine. I kind of I went, there's nothing wrong with this. It was exactly, I had no expectations. It went in completely like, it's a Disney Channel original movie, so it's not going to be very good. No. I do think it was more, I enjoyed this more than Under Wraps. And what was the other one? I haven't watched Spin yet. But I thought this was a nice, solid Christmas movie. What about you?
Yeah, no, this is the movie I was referencing when we were talking about safe movies and shows earlier during the Turner and Hooch bit. This movie is entirely safe. You can probably predict the entire plot arc right from the beginning. You know, this is going to happen, and then she's going to spend her time like doing all the things she couldn't do, and then she's going to have like going to try to get the parents together, and then she's going to have the realization, and now she's going to start helping people and so on. You can track the entire thing.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It's a Christmas movie. You're not really looking to be challenged in a Christmas movie. You want them to have the happy little jingle bells at the end, and that's what this provides. Hallmark movie is 100% accurate description. This is another. I was perfectly fine watching it. I will never watch it again, but for entirely different reasons than the Last Duel. It's fine if you're looking for a safe little Christmas movie that you can throw on this year. When you know, if you're going to have a family gathering, or heck, even if you just need background noise while you're doing your Christmas stuff, this is fine. I would do this over Home Sweet Home Alone.
I was literally about to say, it's like you didn't even make it
in that direction. It's like, if you want to see a Home Alone one, go with the original, skip the new one, and if you want something you haven't seen before, go with this one instead.
No, a really nice movie. I really can't stress that enough. There's just a nice, easy go.
It is not by any stretch of the imagination a movie that you're going to be going like every year. This is our Christmas tradition. We are going to watch Christmas again on loop, Groundhog Day style. But for this year, and maybe if you need some space filler in coming years, it'll be perfectly fine for that.
Yeah, nice, easygoing Christmas movie. Let's shift now over to another new episode of Dope Sick, which dropped this week here. Again, a fantastic series. Me and my wife are just hooked. Like on a Wednesday when this episode dropped, this is what we watch on Wednesday nights. This episode, it was just over an hour. It was quite a, there are all these episodes, dude. They're just not they're about an hour long, so they're not. It's kind of quite strange when you're like him. 65 minutes for an episode. It's actually longer than Diary of a Wimpy Kid each episode. This one was all about really kind of it's quite weird seeing Michael Keaton. He's gone full into like addiction mode, and he ends up going into a addiction clinic, and the fact that he gets in the Will, the guy that plays the salesman, and literally he's like bearing his soul to him about feeling so guilty and not feeling right, and then he's like, and then Michael just turns to him at the end and kind of goes, "So have you got any pills?" And it was just like, oh, he's still there. It's not, and it was heartbreaking. I mean, and then you got the whole thing going on with the pharmaceutical company, with them like trying to take over and kick out the. It's just such an incredible series. I'm really enjoying. It's, as I said, such a different tone. I'm really enjoying this one. Because it's a great show.
Yeah, no, as I mentioned last week, I've already seen the entire series because I didn't think we were going to talk about it because I knew how weird the UK release schedule was. And it literally ended up being like I watched an episode and like, oh man, I have to see what's going on next. I'm not being funny, but I think if I had access to them all, I probably would very likely to binge because I'm really enjoying this series, which is good. And I think that's ultimately when you're into a good series, and when it credits hit, and you're like, oh, wait a week, that's good. Our viewers here, if you've been listening long enough, I don't binge things. I have my own binge style. This is the closest to binging I've gotten on a show probably in the last 2 years. It still took me like 3 days because I can't do the teenage style watch 24-hour-long episodes in a single day kind of deal. But me watching this entire series over 3 days is quite telling of how addictive the show is, pun intended. That said, it's all blended together to me, so I don't know exactly where you are in the plot. But I did want to point out, you mentioned Michael Keaton. I can see why they put him in this role. The transition of that character from the nice, kindly local town doctor who's just trying to do his best to the drug addict, to that one scene you were talking about with him and the drug dealers, like, this is why you put an A-class actor in this role. Because they could have screwed this up so badly with a bad actor, and Keaton just nails it.
Yeah, just a great one there. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about an entirely different series. I'm also, which is it's Welcome to Earth, which is obviously for you. This one's coming out on next week, so this one's be out on Wednesday. So you're going to be getting all of the episodes all at once. So I have seen all of them. There's 6 episodes, and sees Will Smith going around the world to some amazing places. He goes up to like Iceland and does some kayaking, and he sees some waterfalls. He heads up to some active volcanoes, and there's lava flowing and rocks and all kinds of stuff. And he's up there with this amazing guy who's an explorer, but he's blind, so they're like feeling it through him. They've also got him, and he's going like deep underwater in a like just a submarine kind of thing, and they're seeing life underneath. And then he's going on a safari and seeing animals at night. And Will Smith definitely comes across as comes across really well in this, but very honest and open. He's really pushing himself. There's a lot of stuff in here, like he said, like. I've never camped. I've never done. I think because he got into, obviously in Fresh Prince when he was like still a teenager, he never really got to experience a lot of stuff. He was he kind of become a big celebrity, so he's missed all this. So he did a lot of stuff in this one here, and he's really like quite shocked with it. He's quite in some way timid when things get a bit scary. He kind of wants to go. He doesn't. It's like whoa, no, I don't like this, so I want to go, kind of thing. And really pleasant, a real nice, pleasant show. I'm going to come at this a slightly different angle, and it was a little bit. I had a little bit of like nostalgia about this because a lot of the stuff that he'd done, I have done something similar. I have been to active volcanoes in Guatemala and climbed an active volcano and had your legs, your feet are you're burning from the lava, and your trainers are burning, and you're cooking marshmallows on lava, and you've got to watch out for this stuff. I've been kayaking. I've been to the waterfalls in Iceland. I've been out on a safari and camped out in the Serengeti. I've scuba dived and it was you went shark diving. I've done that in places as well. So a lot of this stuff for me wasn't so much a case of going, wow, I'd never do that. My wife would watch this and go, oh, it's crazy, I'm not doing any of that stuff. Well, for me, I'm like, well, I've actually done most of this. So I feel like that changes my view of it, because I'm not looking at it and then they're going, man, he's so brave, and he's like, he's doing some stuff which I would never be able to do because he's got a lot more money, and he's able to do it at a different level than I was. But I looked at this a little bit like, yeah, he's really exploring the world, and it's like I can understand his feelings. And I was getting flashbacks to when I did something similar, and so I kind of, like I said, I feel like I in some ways had a very different view than most people watching this, because most people wouldn't have those kind of experiences. And this is the kind of thing of, if you like people, if you like following a celebrity doing crazy stuff, and you enjoy travel documentaries, this is up here. And this is, for me, was like tick 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 tick. I love Will Smith. I've loved him in pretty much everything he's ever been in. For me, it's like Will Smith, I'm in. That's usually my I'm at that point now where I know what I'm going to get, and I like him. I enjoyed it. I mean, I personally would prefer them to have stretched out the episodes a little bit. I do think I did get to a point of, like, I think episode 4, and I'm going to stop. I'll come back tomorrow and watch it, because I was like, I'm getting a little bit, they were blurring into each other, which is what happens when you binge anything. But this is a kind of show where it kind of does do that. So I would definitely recommend breaking up. Maybe watch, if you'd like it, watch 2 episodes and then watch another 2 episodes, and don't try and do them all back to back. But a really, really great series. This is, again, a very well-made, a very, very well. I mean, it looks beautiful. The photography is amazing. This is a high-end National Geographic documentary. This probably would have been on National Geographic. Actually, I don't even know if they would have put it on National Geographic, because I don't think they would have spent the money on Will Smith to do it. Like Disney Plus giving them extra fine. This is a great show for Disney Plus. This is a top-end show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I definitely perked up when you said Iceland. I will always sing the praises of visiting Iceland. I've been there a couple of times. Whenever my friends are like, "Oh, we're planning a trip over to Europe," I'm like, fly Iceland Air, stop in Reykjavik, take advantage of their overnight layover where you can go to like the Blue Spring Spa, whatever.
Yeah, it's beautiful there.
Blue Lagoon,
beautiful.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The spa and stuff. Take advantage of it, do it, and nobody who's done it has ever been like, "Oh, that was a terrible idea."
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for years I want to take my wife back, and so she can see it. But I went and saw it, and it was under so much snow, so it'd be different in the rocks and stuff. But again, it's just that. It's so rugged, and again, it's just, as someone that loves travel, I got like trips and stuff planned for next year, hopefully, if all goes well, and this just feeds that travel lust in me this is the kind of show. This is far superior to like Road Trip or anything like this. Is a different league. This is top end. When you got Will Smith in there, this is a great show. I can't praise it enough.
Admittedly, when they first announced this and Limitless, the Chris Hemsworth one, I was like, yeah, this one doesn't sound super amazing, and the Hemsworth one sounds a lot more interesting. But now, having seen the trailers for both, obviously not having seen the shows, I'm like, no, I got it backwards. This one looks like let's do the adventurous spirit, and the Limit was like, I'm not super into people pushing bodies to their limits, though I'm still looking forward to it. Like,
yeah, and also like the diving one where he goes down. That was great. It's just a great series. Really recommend this one when it drops on Wednesday on Disney Plus. So definitely keep an eye out for it. And obviously, I'll ask for if you watch. I mean, I'm not expect you to watch all of them next week.
6-year new banner Disney Plus, and I definitely will watch this.
So that one's pretty cool. Okay, so now let's. Did you watch anything else on Disney Plus this week?
I did some back catalog items. I'm actually trying to finish off DuckTales season 3, the new season, or the new series. It's obviously done now. DuckTales season 3, man, this is on a different level. I won't go into it. Obviously, it's been out for a while. DuckTales season 1 and 2 were good, especially when they did nostalgia episodes like Darkwing Duck and things like that. Season 3 is on a whole nother level. This show is fantastic. If you've got any nostalgia for like the Disney Afternoon collection here in the States with Darkwing Duck and Tailspin and things like this, you need to watch this season of DuckTales season 3. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think I just not got involved in that. I've been kind of binge watching a lot of How I Met Your Mother and Seinfeld on Netflix, but obviously as well with things like, a couple of movies to watch and the Will Smith one and Hawkeye. There's a lot of stuff this week. Okay, so let's now shift over to the big one, to Hawkeye. The good thing as well, it's been 4 or 5 days since it came out, so we're going to be going full spoiler. So we'll be going into the full spoiler zone.
Not just full spoiler, but full speculation though too. There's a lot in this one.
Yeah, so there's gonna be. So what did you think of this episode?
I really liked this episode. This might actually be my favorite individual Marvel series episode of the Netflix shows so far. Mostly because of the action scene. It starts in the warehouse, the KB Toys warehouse. That was a nice throwback actually. And then into the car chase. Normally, I don't really like car chases. I find them pretty boring. This one was pretty entertaining, even if the CGI was rough. Really
it's funny as well, because I thought with that race, when I saw the extended clip on Disney Plus Day, I was like, oh, this doesn't look that great. I'm not like, but when I actually watched the actual full thing, I'm like, this is good. I like what they're doing. And the whole thing with the different arrows was genius. It really what I felt at that point was, it brought it back into the MCU. It made it. It's like, oh, you made it back into oh no, he has actually got access to stuff that most people wouldn't. I mean, that USB arrow is amazing. But like the gooey one, I mean, it looked a bit funny with the CGI, but it's like, I like the second one. But then obviously the Hank Pym one. I mean, that was just fantastic. And that always does get me like, Disney Plus can't show any violence, and you can have an entire van explode after having a massive arrow blast into it. But I thought that was great, and I love her reaction to it, like of feeling into it. I just that house, and I think as well, like you say, it was a really good episode because it was full of action, and it's like we've done the establishing stuff, and now we can actually get to the fact that the two of them they're very well good at, they're excellent archers and they can fight. We've done that, we know who they are. We've established everything, and it just worked really. I really enjoyed this one.
So that action scene was great, but they also did a really good job with the sound in this episode, because obviously we'll talk about Maya in a second, but she's mostly deaf or entirely deaf. Clint obviously has the hearing aid now, so he can be deaf at certain points, and they played with that a lot. And it could have been very cringy. It could have been very, you're pandering or things like that, but they did it really well. And then they also used it for that great character moment between the two Hawkeyes where he can't hear what she's saying, but they end up saying the same thing. And you can see that their wavelength is the same.
Yeah.
Again, it could have been a really corny scene, but they did such a good job with it.
Reminded me of that episode of Only Murders in the Building where it was the whole death. But I think this works better. This is what we said when that episode came out. I preferred the way that Hawkeye did it, where you suddenly flip the audio to it's from their point of view, and then you flip it back when it's so it brings you into it. So you hear what Hawkeye, everything's muffled and he's not hearing stuff properly. That kind of thing, like, well, is he deaf in one ear or both ears? Because that was at first I thought it was one ear, and then it was like in this episode, it was like, no, actually he's fully like sliding into deafness, and it was very hard. And then the relationship between them was just they were like best buddies for years. Then they just were bouncing off each other. They had faith. Hawkeye had full faith in her skills. There was no. I mean, kind of funny, really, because I don't think he'd actually seen her shoot an arrow.
No, that was a really good scene too, where after the chase, he just sits down. He's like, yeah, actually, you're a really good archer. Just
Yeah.
not making a huge deal out of it, just kind of going, yeah. And obviously for her, who idolizes Hawkeye, just like, this is the greatest compliment in the world. But it's a really nice scene. They don't overplay it, and they don't just kind of like throw it away.
No, it's again just really enjoyable. Really enjoyed this episode a lot. Obviously we had Maya, we had her introduction. Again, making that kind of thing of like, you know, she's a villain because obviously she's criminal, but they show up on this side from her point of view, which makes, you know, Ronan obviously is the bad guy, and you know he kills his father, and you know she's involved in crime, but it's kind of positioned in that thing of, you know, she's not really, that's just like her family and the way it is, and she has to make do to kind of get by. I thought that was good. I think they showed, because does she have any superpowers? Because in this one it didn't seem like she had any superpowers. It's just the ability to read people.
No, she has the Daredevil style power. Just instead of not being able to see and having like a radar sense, because she can't hear, she just is acutely aware with her visual senses. She can read body language. She can she knows what you're going to do before you do it. That's why she's a good fighter.
But obviously, like,
but she has no superpower other than that.
Yeah, because obviously Daredevil got, like, he did get like liquid and got some superpower kind of.
Yeah, the always useful 1950s Marvel radiation gives you anything, you know. And this is why she's normally a Daredevil villain. Obviously, is you know, you've got the guy who can't see fighting the girl who can't hear. You know, compare, contrast, etc. Classic comic book.
Yeah.
So two things. First, her father. Not much to say about the character, but it was nice to see the actor, because we just saw him over in Reservation Dogs.
Yeah.
And this is a completely different role, but he was great in both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one worked great. I mean, and obviously as well, we have to talk about it. Just a little tap on the shoulder, uncle, and references to him. And so, I mean, the minute the hand came in, I'm just like, that's Kingpin.
And the breathy voice. I mean, you can't immediately tell if it's Vincent or not.
Yeah.
You know, the guy who played Daredevil played Kingpin in Daredevil, but they're definitely leaning into it, and they're definitely going, hey, you know who this is, don't you? And of course, this great. This is of course also why she's still in crime. If Kingpin is pulling the strings, or their Kingpin substitute will allow that it might not be Kingpin in the same way that Mephisto was not in WandaVision. If it is Kingpin or a Kingpin analog, this is why she's still in crime, because she was raised by this character.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I just thought it was, I mean, instantly like, oh, they go in there. Because, I mean, it just makes sense, because I'm really hoping they do bring back the actor. He did actually even tweet himself on the day the episode came out, being on Main Street USA, I think in Disneyland, kind of real like a hint of like, look, I'm in Disney kind of thing. I think everyone was like, you know, because Daredevil was such a great series. You know, we've had lots of rumors of Kingpin being in the series. We've had lots of rumors about Daredevil being in She-Hulk and the Spider-Man movie. This will just tie up perfectly. And also, in some way, with the blip, they've kind of got a way of like, they can make him a bit bigger. They can make some changes, because he's now, you know, an older Kingpin. You know, they could do it that way around. So more years have passed since that time. And
you can really do it two ways with Kingpin if you include the blip. You can either have he was blipped out and there was like a power struggle and he comes back and now he's regaining the power. Or if he didn't get blipped and there's this huge chaos going around in the world, he could have really solidified power with all this vacuum that was created.
See, I think it went with that, because the fact that he was talking about, like Hawkeye was talking about, someone was running the place, and it would allow them a way of like kind of rebooting him a little bit, because obviously time's moved on. I mean, I love the Daredevil series. I mean, he was such I always loved the Kingpin, even back in the animated Spider-Man cartoon, because I always put him, because of that cartoon, I always put him as a Spider-Man villain. He was always like, he was the guy that ran all the villains. He was the villain. And obviously in Marvel, it's generally been more like Daredevil.
Yeah, and this is how you know one of the characters is really successful in Marvel. Just sticking strictly to the comics. When a villain starts appearing in other people's books and becoming major characters in other people's story arcs, you know that villain has made it. And Kingpin is definitely one of those, because he was originally just very much a a Daredevil, and then they're like, no, we got a lot of potential with this. Bring Spider-Man into it. Bring some of the other street level heroes into it, and he became a really big deal.
I mean, you look at like the Green Goblin and the Sandman, and they're always associated with Spider-Man. You don't tend to have you're not going to be watching a Fantastic Four movie and Venom turns up, But Kingpin kind of has been able to like stretch out and like he's in the whole of New York. He's he could turn up in Luke Cage, he could turn up in anything because he's in New York. And I'm just the thing is now is we're in that it's got that teeth into us. I think where we're like, this is what we want. And obviously we're waiting on the end is going to be making an appearance in the series as well. I think there was a little bit of a clip in a trailer. Not that I've watched any more trailers at all.
That's totally Ghost Monkey or whatever it is from Spider-Man Far From Home. It's not Yelena. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's it's just like now we're like, oh, there's something juicy coming, and I mean we're halfway through Hawkeye. I mean it's like we're already.
Yeah, no, but that's part of the thing though. We're halfway through, but the pacing in this has felt really well done. Like it doesn't feel like we're behind in the series. Like we need to know more about what's going on. No, we feel like we're at the place we should be at this. And even the best parts of Loki and WandaVision and such, there were definitely instances where like, okay, they're stretching this out because COVID kind of screwed them up, or they needed to fill in between this plot point and that plot point and how to get to them. And for the most part, things in Hawkeye have really just moved organically. They've done a really good job stitching it together. And
also, you can tell that the rewrites came in for COVID, because if you actually think about it, there's very few scenes with more than like 2-3 people in. There's, even when they got the tracksuit mafia, they're all spread out and there's less of them. But generally, and there's a lot of outdoor scenes as well and all the rest of it. But because I think they were able to plan for that with this one, because obviously like with WandaVision and Loki, they kind of had to shift halfway through. But with Hawkeye, you definitely feel like, okay, now they knew what they were doing with this one a little bit more. But it actually, you forget about it because it doesn't matter, because you've got great characters and just having conversations. And that's where I feel like the Disney Plus series really allow for that extra time.
I mean, that's the thing is, with a lot of these COVID era produced shows, the real question is, can I notice it is a COVID produced show? Yeah. And I'm gonna rag a little on the CW here, but like the last season of Flash, not the one that's airing right now, which I haven't watched at all, you could really tell it was a COVID show. Everyone was like 10 feet apart. They were using a lot of same actors for multiple roles, kind of thing. Yeah. Like, all right, I can see this, but like, and then, all right, to rag on Disney a little, you could see it in Mighty Ducks. You could see it in even Big Shot, like when they got rid of crowds for the basketball games, things like that.
And like Mysterious Benedict, every scene like took place in the garden.
Yeah, pretty much. And at least the Mysterious Benedict Society, it fits the aesthetic for everybody to be split out. You're just like, it's a weird show, weird things happen. Yeah. But Hawkeye, it's never really at the forefront of your mind that. The tracksuit mafia guys, they're all conspicuously standing 6 feet apart in the factory, things like that. They do a very good job with it. Yeah, no,
very good. I'm again totally in. I'm really enjoying the series. This week's episode, I think took it from into that next level. And I think again, it's that anticipation. They know they've got us. If you're bringing in Hawkeye, if you're bringing in Kingpin, and obviously we've got an Echo series. We know that's coming. It's been officially announced. We know there's going to be a spin-off. So we might not necessarily see much of Echo and Kingpin coming to blows. There might be. I don't know how they're going to be able to turn that in 2 episodes, but it would actually make more sense that they can stretch it out because they know they've got the whole season for that.
I would suspect, and this is just pure speculation, that. They're not going to have her turn on Kingpin here, but they might plant the seeds. Like Hawkeye, one of them will plant the seeds that will lead into her show, where she kind of questions what her life is and what Kingpin or pseudo Kingpin's role in it is. And speaking of Kingpin, I'm going to throw in one last bit. This is a trivia bit that I think some people caught and some people didn't. At the very end, they're talking about Shane. International or Shane, this person that comes up in the reference file. Shane is a reference to Alchemex, which, if you may remember, was the big villain company of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that is owned by Kingpin. Just, to put a little fuel on that fire for you guys.
Well, also brought the point as well. The Netflix show, 3 years since it got cancelled? They were allowed to use the characters after 2 years. They can use them. And why not integrate them into your other stuff while you sort out what you're doing with? And also, I don't necessarily think the multiverse, there's always that kind of weird thing, because I always felt like the Daredevil universe was part of the MCU anyway, because they made references to the event in New York. They made references to Spider-Man, but it was its own separate thing. There was references in Cloak and Dagger about, Luke Cage and all that. And it's like, oh, it's not part. It's like, well, guys, you did make it part of the MCU. And it's the same thing with, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No, you did. I know you're trying to wriggle out of it. Yeah, you can, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., once they go off the different time zones, you can kind of say, okay, it's all changed. But, you started off referencing the fact that something happened in New York. You can't go back from that. And so, as far as I'm concerned, he's in it. But, yeah.
I have always considered the Netflix shows part of it. I know that there was a lot of debate when Disney started bringing their shows over to Disney Plus, and there's still debate. People are still like, are they just going to write them out? I really hope they don't. Honestly, I think it would be the wrong move. And if this is Vincent here, and if we've got Matt Murdock over in Spider-Man or She-Hulk or any of the other shows, that would be fantastic. I'm 100% behind that. And
then bring them back in maybe 2 years' time when they can go a little bit more extreme.
Yeah, I really hope, and if they need to, they can drop some of the characters, because contracts are up, or maybe some of the guys don't want to come back.
Just recast them.
Or you can do, a lot of the characters have younger generation versions, just like Hawkeye does here. Now, I know Luke Cage in the comics passed on the mantle of Power Man to somebody else. Jessica Jones is still running around, but Iron Fist has also changed hands a number of times. Pun intended on that one. They can do it, but some of those casts were so perfectly done. It would be really tough to see.
He was so great, and also Jessica Jones. She was fantastic.
Ritter was fantastic.
She was amazing.
I wouldn't want them to bring back Purple Man because he's very definitively dead. But man, Tenet was amazing. He's one of the best villains in the MCU. Period. All the movies, all the shows, he was amazing.
And not only that, Tenet's just great anyway. But
in general, I will give him that. Tenet is.
Yeah.
I would watch him read the dictionary. Honestly, he
can watch him watch Jack and Nori. There we go. Right. On that note. Thank you very much for joining us this week. We'll be back next week, and where we go through all of the Disney Plus news and all the new content. On that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Again, thank you. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. You can follow, and subscribe. Again, a big thank you to all of our supporters, and also make sure you go and vote in our end of year awards. On that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Later. I'd like to thank all of our Patreon and YouTube channel members for their support. You can become a member from as little as $2 a month, and you get access to our weekly Q&A and much more.